Okay, that's better, I think. Hello, hello. All right. Looks like it's going through. Uh, get it together. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is our Satisfied God podcast video version, and this will also be on the audio podcast, of course. We are in part two of our study. In fact, I think I have it wrong there. I think I have part 52 down in the title, so I'll have to change that. I think it's part 53 now, but this is a continuation of the live pop-up class that I did a few days ago, but this will go out, I'm thinking, let's see, I'm going to put this up as a uh, kind of a pre-Christmas podcast, so I'm thinking it's going to go out around the 22nd, somewhere around there, and 22nd of December, and then the next one will be the 2nd of January. That'll be the actual audio podcast. But this, I'm going to put this out a little. No, not the 22nd, because we have the live class going on. Then maybe I'll wait and do that for the 27th. That'll be the Saturday after Christmas. That would be probably better for people to actually get to watch it. So I'll figure all of that out. But this has been pre-recorded. Hold just a second. Getting text. Sorry. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Put this on airplane mode. All right, so we'll figure that out. But again, this is being pre-recorded. It'll go out. I'm thinking after Christmas, probably the Saturday after Christmas. Then we'll have our um, Monday live class on Hebrews. That'll go out Monday night at the usual time. That's 6 p.m. Central Time. So, all right, and I'll be pre-recording that as well. But we're doing this one first. Again, this is a continuation of the Walk in Love study or lesson that I did a few days ago out of Ephesians chapter 5. Let me turn there real quick. And I don't want to rehash a lot of the things now. I'm going to go back into Romans 14 where we ended the last class and begin there. But to give a premise, we did look at the verses in chapter 4 that leads up to chapter 5 and how they connect. Okay, so I'm not going to do that anymore. You'll have to go watch that one to get that connection. But let me read verse 1 of chapter 5 of Ephesians. Be ye therefore followers of God as dear children, and walk in love, as Christ also had loved us and given himself for us. Let me see. I think I'm echoing here. Oops, sorry about that. Sorry about that, guys. If that was echoing, I'm apologizing. Yeah, I'm not a professional by any stretch. So walk in love as Christ also had loved us and hath given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling savor. And then he goes into fornication and shouldn't be named among you as become saints. And we'll talk about that later in a lesson. But today, and I'm hoping this is not going to be very long, but I wanted to pick up on this phrase to walk in love. And I think sometimes the concept of it, because love is such a big subject, but it's also one of the things that we have so defined in natural ways that we lose sight of the immensity of it. Again, there's a reason why the love of God is something that Paul in Ephesians talks about, that we would come to know the length, the breadth, the depth, the height of the love of God. Why? Because this is the full measure of Him. It's the full measure of salvation. It's encompassed in this reality of love. So we're not just talking about walk lovingly toward one another. We are talking about a love toward one another that is based upon a love that God has manifested toward us, that has brought about something that is immense. It is everlasting. It is unchanging. It is as certain. It is as indescribable and unknowable with natural minds as the reality of the cross, because it is that love that we're talking about. Walk in love, even as Christ has loved us and given himself unto God as a sweet smelling savor, as a sacrifice, as an offering. So there is, again, a basis of this. There is a realm of love in which we dwell. This is the very nature of the love of God manifested in the cross, that has made us that body and joined us together as members one of another, having one head, filled with one life, bestowed with one righteousness, and all of the things that we possess as a body, we do not possess individually. We do not possess this reality individually achieved or attained by efforts that we exert. It is the love and mercy of God that has rendered to us all spiritual blessings. It is the fact that we are in the loved one, the beloved one, the one who is God's love manifested toward us. This is a reality in which we walk as his body, one toward another, and as his body to those who are without the body, outside, all men. Because this is not something we just change on a whim. This is not something, we are part of a certain club and everybody outside that club is null and void. That's not how this works. This is love in an entirety. This is love in a way we may have not considered it. And I want to consider it with you, okay? Because this has immense ramifications for us. And what I'm saying, and I said in the last lesson a lot, and I probably repeated it too much, but I use the word in accordance to our love one to another, our conversation, our manner of living is in accordance to the love of God that he has exercised toward us in his work, in his cross, and now in his headship over this body. We walk in accordance to a love that has been demonstrated in its most perfect way. And that entails, and my wife was listening to it beside me, and she said, so let me ask you a question. This walking in love, that requires a comprehension, understanding. And I'm like, yes, this is something we can't just do because we hear it taught. And, then it's just a work and a performance. This is an understanding of love. This is a comprehension of love. And again, once we comprehend God's love in this way, as it truly is, we do what we do, not to perform anything where men can laud and applaud. It's an automatic. We'll talk about that, because again, that's very difficult for some people to grasp and reason. because we're so performance based. And even I have to try to calculate words that I'm using because it can sound as if I'm trying to uh, work out a performance based type salvation. And that's not the case at all. Because, as I said, my love towards you, anything that I do because I love you, anything that I do for you as a member of his body, as a member of the church, or anybody that may not be, love has to be the governing source of it. But here's the thing: the love that I show you or the love you show me does not equate to the love in which we walk. It is not the same as the love of God manifested toward us. It's not the same. They're not equal. Okay. So I cannot look at your activity, and we'll see this. This is why understanding has to come in, why the Spirit of God has to open our eyes to see the love of God, the true love of God, uh, toward us in the cross. Because I can look at your activities and try to assess the love of God in it, and I can't. No matter how wonderful that particular thing you do or I do is, it is not the love of God in display. Now, what I do towards you should proceed out from my understanding of a love wherewith we have equally been loved. But I cannot ever attempt to equate my love for you in the way I show it in whatever um, beneficial way it may be towards you. Whether it's feeding or whether it's doing or whether it's helping or blah blah blah, whatever. That's not God's love. God's love is exercised in the cross, in salvation. My love is not salvation. My love cannot bring about atonement and redemption. Okay. My love towards you is because I am grounded in and have a comprehension of a love that has come to all of us that we did not merit in ourselves. And so I'm walking in that love and I am loving you in accordance to it. I'm not boasting. I'm not trying to get any credit. I'm not trying to do things to please you or to get the praise of men. It's just the automatic and authentic response of those who are knowing the love of God. Okay. This is not something we do to get any kind of award or reward in heaven. This is the reward in and of itself. This is an activity or a way of living because we are knowing the reward that we have been given in Christ. That's a big difference. Okay. That is, again, why it has to be understanding, because it can be merely performance and love not be the source of it. Or we're not doing it in the love or out from in accordance to the love wherewith we've been loved. So in the last class, we ended looking in chapter 14 of Romans. And I want to go back to that. And before we got to Romans, we talked about Ephesians chapter 2, where it talks about the love of God, the great mercy of God. Again, speaking of the cross, when we were dead in trespasses, he made us alive together with Christ. By grace you've been saved. And this is framed as the great love wherewith he has loved us. It is the grace of God coming to us, making us alive in Christ, dead to sin. Not because of something we've done, but just his great love, his mercy extended to us, that while we were dead, while we were enemies, it would say in Romans, Christ died for the ungodly. That's a love we didn't merit. That's a love we didn't earn. Because that's a love that does not have me as its focus. Again, that is the love in which we walk as his body, or that we are to walk in. And it is out from that we do what we do. 1 for and one toward another as members. But that has a multitude of expressions, but a singular source. And the source is what's important. Because you can see expressions all day long and point at that and say, oh, but it's the source. Because there's motive tied up to it. There is understanding and tied up with it. Okay, we'll just go from there. But this is played out in Paul's words in Romans 14, because he is dealing here with those who would he's dealing with brothers here. This again, it's important to notice. He's dealing with brothers, those who are one in Christ, those who are part of the body. However, although they have the same salvation, they have the same source of righteousness, they have differences in understanding and opinion, and that can cause dispute and debate and argument. Now, what we need to do is know how to deal with that. And Paul deals with it beautifully here in a way that most people don't consider beautiful. They don't consider it proper. And I don't see it exercised very much. Let's say it that way. But this is the way we do it as his body. And this has to do with love. This is real love. Because we'll get to chapter 13 in a moment of 1 Corinthians and show love doesn't isn't puffed up. It's not arrogant. It doesn't try to prove its point. You know, it is humble. That's the source. Okay. It's not self-aggrandizing. And this is what Paul is saying here in Romans 14. Verse, again, let me start here. I'm just going to start because we started in verse 13 in the last lesson. Let me just go to verse 1 and start there, and we'll read this and then go back to verse 13. But said, him that is weak in the faith, receive ye, but not to doubtful disputations, or debating over your disputes, or disputing your doubts or their scruples or their misunderstandings of things. This isn't why you receive them, to make sure they are convinced that you're right and they're wrong, so that they fall in line and fall under the doctrine of your particular sect. For one believes that he may eat all things. Again, this has to do with eating meat that is offered to an idol. Paul understood that it meant nothing and could be done, and some didn't, especially those who came from a Jewish background who had been taught that eating meat offered to idols was wrong. So now, oh Lord, that is terrible. We can't do that, right? For one believes that he may eat all things, another who is weak eats herbs. Let not him that eateth despise him that eateth not, and let not him which eateth not judge him that eateth, for God has received him. This goes back. We are members one of another. That has a huge bearing here. Who art thou to judge another man's servant? To his own master he standeth or falleth, meaning God's the judge of this. Yea, he shall be holden up for our help, for God is able to make him stand. His standing has nothing to do with you. His true standing has nothing to do with you. Because just like you, he is dependent upon the sufficiency of Jesus Christ to anchor his soul in a reality that he does not yet understand, and neither do you fully. Again, that is why we have to know the difference between reality and the realization of reality. That's why we have to understand our soul is anchored on the basis of what is real, not upon the basis of what is realized or fully known. We come to fully know something that's fully real because he is the real of it. He makes it so because he's present in each member of that body. But no matter the understanding or comprehension of the member, the state of the member is the same as another who has a greater comprehension. So realization within that member means nothing as to what is real and actual as the condition of that member. This is God's love in which we stand, stable, fixed, certain. And then we come to know and grow in the full measure of the love of God that has been made manifest toward us. So he goes on. One man esteemeth one day above another, and another esteemeth every day alike. So let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. Again, I love that part, and we'll talk about that as we go. He that regardeth the day regards it unto the Lord. He that regardeth not the day, to the Lord he doth not regard it. He that eateth, eateth to the Lord, for he giveth God thanks. And he that eateth not, to the Lord he eateth not, and giveth God thanks. See, this gives us a different understanding of whatever you do, do it unto the Lord. Yes, as his body, that is so. You don't do it to this person. You don't do it so they can measure how good your actions or your Christian living is. You do it unto the Lord, knowing him as the sole source you have. For none of us live unto himself, and no man dieth to himself. For whether we live unto God, or whether we die unto God. Whether we live, therefore, or die, we are the Lord's. So we are not to receive one another so that we can convince one another that we're right and they're wrong. We're not to be persuaders of our brethren. We're to love the brethren. Let God persuade. Or else we're no different than the Judaizers who would come into the churches and with enticing and convincing words draw them aside. We're not trying to do that. And we'll talk about why in a moment. We'll go a little further. But anyway, we don't need to go to verse 13 through 23. You can read that or go back to the last lesson and deal with that. But I do want to read this again out of Matthew Henry's commentary. I do appreciate these words. Matthew Henry says of Romans 14, 1 through 6, what we just read, or do we read Romans 1 through 8? He says, differences of opinion prevailed among the immediate followers of Christ and their disciples. Nor did St. Paul attempt to end them. Compelled assent to any doctrine. That means if you're trying to compel someone to fall in line with a particular set of beliefs or see something in a particular way that is theologically correct, as you may know it to be, and it may so be because you've seen it by the Spirit of God. Any compulsion for that person to assent to conform to doctrines or outer observances without being convinced by God, I would say, but he says without being convinced, is hypocritical and to no avail. It means nothing. What does that mean? As we said in the last class, hypocritical means a person that is like an actor on a stage, faking it, playing a part. Not really who he is. It's hypocritical. It's like wearing a mask, being an actor on a stage. That's what the word is. And hypocrisy is the unfortunate and all too often result of our disputes and our attempts to compel one another to fall in line and no longer have differences of views and perspectives. Because such a difference or change of perspective, for it to possess actual, and I said this in last, for it to be pure, and for it not to be the product of coercion and compulsion, that type of change only comes when God reveals the person of the truth, the person of his love in the soul. This does not mean that your brother is evil or unredeemed because he has a misunderstanding. It just means he doesn't know. Oh, foolish, ignorant, stupid Galatians. They're just weak. They are being tossed. You can corrective. That's the thing. We declare the gospel. That is not trying to coerce. That's telling them what is true according to the gospel. Okay. But let God change their perspective. You can't do it. No words can do it. Convincing them can, and as many times has led to hypocritical activities. They change outwardly, but inwardly they're still not fully convinced. God's convincing doesn't come from the outside in, it comes from the inside out. There is a heart, perspective of the heart that is changed, an understanding of the soul that is brought about, that leads to true and authentic result. It is not, I show you a result I think you're after without any internal change at all. That's hypocrisy. So I like the fact that he says, let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. Because I don't want you to be in any way easily persuaded. I don't want you to be malleable in my hands. I want you to be convinced that what you believe is true. I don't want you to be convinced because of my argument or my eloquence, which is not present, but I want you to know what you know, believe fully what you believe. Because I'm going to tell you the gospel, but I'm not going to debate the truth. I'm not going to try to debunk or persuade you from any particular object of disagreement. God's work is greater. God's convincing is inward, and that is greater and everlasting. It will not, God's work in the soul of truly making the truth known and revealing the truth that is his son will not lend itself to hypocrisy. It will lend itself to authenticity. Authenticity. And I hate to say it, but that's why most people don't want anything to do with the church. Because they are a lot more likely to run into hypocritical activities than authenticity. And it has to do with the source, not by the action. The action could look the same. It's the source. So, if you're resolute in your perspective, in your view, in your theological view, in your view about whatever, God himself, that's the prayer I have for anyone that doesn't particularly believe a way I believe or understand or believe or agree with me. When God imposes his perspective in your soul, and that means reveals his son inwardly, it's going to be more than a correction of habits, more than a change of conduct. That will come, that may come, may not be what you think. but it will be a liberating, soul liberating comprehension, a perspective given by God that is settled and conclusive with all of the necessary God-given evidences, because you'll see a reality in that revealing that is unrelated to you and me in any way. It is fully related to one, fully encased and embodied in one, and therein is God's love. That is why when this love is the basis of our communication, the basis of our fellowship, we can rest and be assured in this. Eating meat, not eating meat means nothing. If it offends my brother, I won't eat it, because me eating it and me being right in the fact that it is edible and God is okay with it is not the important part. My brother and his soul is the important part. So if he's still weak and offended by me eating these things, doing that particular thing, guess what I'm going to do? Not do it in his presence. Now, I know that it is not a lifelong, everyday principle, that it is wrong. So if that brother who is offended by that particular thing is not present and cannot be offended by the thing, me understanding it is not wrong or sin can do it. But the offense of my brother, not the means by which I can tell that brother, you're wrong about this, I'm right about this, I'm going to do it anyway. Learn to love it. Or, this is one I've heard and love, go to the cross, brother. You need to see Jesus. Well, that's true. And that's true of all of us. But that's not a defense of offending your brother. The first thing you do is don't do the thing that is offending them. Don't do the thing that they will stumble at. Knowing in yourself, again, this is why understanding is important, knowing in yourself that the eating, not eating, circumcision, uncircumcision, all of it means nothing. Now, Paul knew where to draw the line. You remember with Titus, he had was it Titus? With one of his disciples, yeah, it was Titus. He allowed Titus to be circumcised. Why? He knew that circumcision wasn't anything inside of God because of the true circumcision of the heart that had come. He knew it, but he did not want to put a barrier between him and the Jews so that he could not minister grace to them and the work of Christ to them. However, when it came to Barnabas, he would not permit it one moment, because, and maybe I'm getting my metaphors or getting my people mixed up. I don't think so, but maybe. He wouldn't allow it. Why? Because at that moment, it wasn't about a door of an opening to minister the gospel. It was about these people demand it. And what they do is, if you submit to it, you are validating their argument that it is necessary and that Jesus is not sufficient. There's a difference. You have to know where to draw this line. But here in the body of Christ, we walk in that understanding. There is nothing greater than the one out from whom we have all that we have, the one who has made unto us all things. And eating and not eating is not even part of that. It doesn't matter. So that is part of the walking in love that we have to live in accordance with, and one to another. And we're going to talk about it here in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. That's where we're going now, because this is what they call the love chapter. You're just seeing it exhibited in Romans 14. It's a little different here because it has to do with the gifts and the functions of the body, which has been a means of differences, distinctions, and arguments, but not because of love, but because of those who have not loved when those things are happening. Let me read this to you. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 1 through 7. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not love. Now, King James says charity. Some would say love. The word love is the same as used throughout. Have not love. Same word as we're talking about in Ephesians. I am become as a sounding brass or as a tinkling cymbal. Just loud noises, no distinct purpose, no true purposeful reverberation, just a bunch of noise. And though I have the gift of prophecy, and I understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, and have not charity, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profits me nothing. And again, for charity, put love. Love suffereth long and is kind. Love envieth not. Love vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinks no evil, rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in truth, in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Let me see if I want to read a little further. Of course I do, but love never fails. But whether there are prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. Then we go on. I'm not going to continue on because that get me off on another tangent. So we read this in the light. If I do all these things, have not love, I'm a sounding brass, tinkling cymbal. I am nothing. These are pretty big things, right? And what we don't, because background is necessary for this chapter, we can't just isolate this chapter, and that's what most people do. They isolate this chapter, call it the love chapter, and it's isolated all by itself. And so it's just about a particular thing, and especially a particular way we think about love, because we're like, oh, we got to love everybody. We got to love people. Yes, we do. But there's a specific love that has to be the basis of everything, or else it's nothing. Because there's a lot of things on this list that we would call loving actions, and you can still do them and function in that way, exercise that activity, and love not be there. We're talking about the love of God that is in the cross. When Jesus was asked, what's the greatest commandment? He said there were two: love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. There was a question, who is my neighbor? And to answer that question, to answer who your neighbor is, to answer about this love for that neighbor, Jesus gave a parable that is extremely powerful. It's about a Samaritan. Let me type this in real quick. I wasn't going to do this. This is Luke chapter 10, verse 20. Well, it starts in 27, where he says the thing about love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself. And he said, thou hast answered right, this do, and thou shalt live. Now, that takes us to a whole different question, because we're talking about a love that is full and deeper than man's concept of it. Do this and you shall live. In another place, he says, upon these two things, the whole law is hinges, meaning these two is the fulfillment and the fullness of the law. The question when regarding the love of God is who actually can fulfill it. You remember, Paul has said, the scripture says plainly, no man can live it, no man can do it. And he says that the law would say, whoever can do this shall live in it. That means the law is not the means by which this is going to be done. This is only done by a miracle of God called love, grace. This is the work of Christ. As he has loved us, this whole thing is so he can show them the cross in action. And he's going to garb himself as the one who is the redeemer here, the one who is the true lover and helper of the neighbor. He's going to do it as the Samaritan, who the Jew who was asking him this question despised. And they asked the question, it says, so that they can tempt Jesus, basically, and to justify himself, because he believed that the only people he had to be nice to were the Jews. And Jesus is like, doesn't work that way. So he asks, who is my neighbor? To justify himself, it says, that's verse 29 here. And Jesus said, a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment and wounded him and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. The priest didn't help that particular Jew. That's a picture of the law. And likewise, a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked on him and passed by the other side. There's a Levite. Didn't help. Kept on going. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him and went to him and bound up his wounds. Now, notice this, what Jesus would say. Notice this picture that Jesus is painting and what Jesus would say he would do as the coming of the Messiah. It's much like this, because he's showing them this is the work of the Messiah. This is the work of the cross. This is the love in which you are to live according to. This is the love that fulfills the law. This is the love. It's the cross. We're about to see it. This is his coming, his work, the coming of the Messiah to do and to heal the wounded, to bind up the wounded. He bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine. There's the new covenant. and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. And on the morrow, when he departed, he took out 2 pence, and gave them to the host, and said unto him, Take care of him, and whatsoever thou spendest more, when I come again, I'll repay you. Which now of these three thinketh thou was which now of these three think that was neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? You see, what he's doing is putting the measuring rod way up there. Again, they hated the Samaritan. And Jesus is painting the picture that the Samaritan is the good neighbor here, is the only true neighbor here, and is demonstrating love, but he's doing much more than that. He's showing himself as the one who came to the ones who were dead and brought who bound up the wounded, bound up the wounds of those who were half dead, gave them oil and wine, and put them into the place, and paid for it all. Paid for the whole thing. There's the love manifested. That's what I'm saying. That's the picture of this. It's not about, if you see somebody hurting, do it. Do it, but there's a love that is demonstrated here that's greater than that. Because he says, he showed mercy on him. Then said Jesus unto him, he said, he that showed mercy on him. Then said Jesus, go and do likewise. And that's what we're reading here. Walk in love, even as. There is a true love of God that has done this, that has healed, and that has bound up all the wounds, and has truly brought salvation and truly paid for it all. And what he's saying is walk in accordance to this. Walk accordingly. Guys, God has done something for us we didn't merit. He came to the dead. He came to those who were in the ditch. He came to those who were wounded. And he loved us. In this manner, he loved us. He gave his son. Right? That those who would receive him would have eternal life. As he says in another place, would be brought from condemnation to life. There's love. There's the true, real love that is genuine and eternal. The length and the breadth and depth of we will continually be knowing eternally, but it's in accordance to that it is in that love that we stand, and in and out from that love we are to walk one with another and to all who are outside. And we're going to see that exercise, because what we do is we mess it up. Because if you would sit here, you'd say, well, that means I have to give. Well, what he's saying here is even more to the point. The background of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, and that in Luke was just a small side point, but hold that in reference to what I'm saying here, because this is what we're talking about. This is love. This is the love. And without this love being the source out from which we do all things, without this love being the real, genuine thing that motivates our heart, then everything we do, dear friend, everything we do, sorry, everything we do, this camera's giving me fits today. everything we do is self. This has to be the basis, or else it's meaningless. It's just just an action, something we do, and we do it trying to get praise, and because that's the thing. We don't understand the source. So the background here is that the church here, the Corinthian church, this is a very corrective letter because this church was messed up on all kind of levels. And this church had taken the things such as gifts. They had done the same with the uh, Lord's Supper, all of the things that they took, and they took it to themselves. And here, with regard to the gifts, they used them for self-aggrandizement, a means to demonstrate their spiritual power over against other members of the church. And Paul is demonstrating the insignificance of these activities, even the gifts, when they are done outside of walking in love. If love is not the source, nothing. So you have to closely consider the parallel of this with Ephesians 4, what we're talking about. Remember, in our study of chapter 4, we addressed that what Paul calls the working of the ministry of the body, remember in chapter 4, the work of the ministry, is parallel to and closely corresponds to the function or manifestation of the Spirit of God in his body, which is what 1 Corinthians chapter 12 we'll talk about. And chapter 13 and chapter 12 are connected. This is important to see. Because again, we can't isolate chapter 13 and think we understand something with regard to this. Let me read this. This is from Albert Barnes' commentary. And this is something new to me too, guys. I'm trying to articulate it as best I can, okay? Albert Barnes says this, chapter 13, 1 Corinthians chapter 13 is a continuation of the subject commenced in chapter 12. In that chapter, Paul had introduced the subject of the endowments which the Holy Spirit confers on Christians, and had shown that these endowments, however various they were conferred in such a manner as best to promote the edification and welfare of the church. Remember, we read that in Ephesians chapter 4. It's for the edification of the body. In the close of that chapter 12, verse 31, he had said that it was lawful for them to desire the most eminent of the gifts conferred by the Spirit, and yet says that there was one endowment that was more valuable than all others, and that might be attained by all, and that he proposed to recommend to them, and that was love. Sold to illustrate its nature, excellency, and power, is designed of this exquisitely beautiful and tender chapter. So what I want you to understand is that everything he says here at the beginning of chapter 12 or 13 corresponds to what he's been talking about in chapter 12. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, he's referring to the gift of tongues. Though I understand, or I have the gift of prophecy, he uses the word there, gift, that, but understand all mysteries and all knowledge. There's the gift of knowledge. Though I have all faith, there's the gift of faith, so I can move mountains, and have not love, I am nothing. Though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and give my body to be burned, and have not love, it's for nothing. It is worthless. See, I would look at things like this, because again, this is the gift of helps. the giving of the poor, the giving to the poor, and all of that, and having your body to be burned. These are hyperbolic levels of saying you can do it all to the farthest extent possible. That function can be in you to the farthest extent. Giving your body to be burned would be able, at that time, they were burning Christians for lights in the city, on poles for night lights. If you give yourselves to be burned for another brother, is that not an exercise of love? Not if love is not the source. This is a big deal, guys. You can do all of that. And it seems crazy, doesn't it? That I can do all of that to the extent of having my body burned and just giving myself over to that type of thing. And still, I've given everything I have to the poor, and still it's meaningless if love is not the source. It is. Again, you hear that word? Do not measure it by a natural measure. Don't bring it down to the earth. He's doing that, and he's saying these are the gifts of the Spirit in operation, and you can still have that happen, and the member in which that is functioning and out from which that is functioning can still not have love as the source he's boasting in, and the source he's assured of, and the singularity of his glory, and it's nothing. See, these words are not to condemn you guys. This is to tell you we need to know the love of God here. We need to see the one who is God's love and stop trying to hypocritically define who he is by anything we do or anything he can do in us. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and read these things. So I'm going to start in verse 4. We're going to read a lot here. There are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. I want you to see the distinction here. Diversities, same. Diversity, one, right? Many, one. It's always goes back to that singular source. We talked about this in chapter 4, but we have to come back to it because this is what we need to understand about walking in love, because it is this sacrifice, the love of God in the cross, that has brought us to this union where he is head, where he is the life that fills the body, where we have individually have no source except one. We can't boast except in one. I can't judge you separate from me because we have one life, one righteousness, one soul. What I can do is call you back to the singularity of our union and restore you as a brother. That's what Galatians 6 talks about. Restore you in love and in meekness, right? Lowliness and meekness, long suffering. Because that is possible when you understand you're not greater than anyone else in the body. No one's lesser than you in the body. You don't have a place they don't have. You have the same. That's love. That's the love we walk in. That's the love bestowed. I am your life. I am, right? Not I, but Christ is based in this statement, who loved us and gave himself for us. There are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit, differences of administrations, but the same Lord, and there are diversities of operations. I hate this changing of lights. Sorry, I'm going to have to get the lighting right in this room. Difference in operations, but the same God who works in all. That corresponds to Ephesians 4, where he talks about one Lord, one God and Father who is in all and through you all. That's what he's addressing there too. But the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit the whole. For to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, another the word of knowledge. There's understanding all mysteries and having all knowledge, by the same Spirit. To another faith, have all faith to move mountains by the same Spirit. to another the gift of healing by the same Spirit, to another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another discerning of spirits, to another diverse kinds of tongues, to another the interpretation of tongues. But all these works the one and selfsame Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will. For as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of that one body being member are one body, so also is Christ. For by one Spirit we are all baptized into one body, whether we be Jews or Gentiles, whether we be bond or free, and having been made to drink into one Spirit, for the body is not one member, but many. If the foot shall say, because I'm not the hand, I'm not the body, is it therefore not the body? And if the ear shall say, because I'm not the eye, I'm not the body, is it therefore not of the body? If the whole body was an eye, where's the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where's the smelling? And now hath God set members, every one of them, in the body as it has pleased him. And if they were all one member, where's the body? But now are they many members, yet but one body. And the eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of thee, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. See, this is why we can walk in love, guys. It is one body. It's many members. It's not my thing and your thing. It's his thing. And we are found in that reality in commonality. We walk in something that is bestowed to us as a gift and is not earned by us. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. Nay, much more, those members of the body which seems to be more feeble are necessary. What did he just say about the brother who's weaker in the faith? Receive him. He's just as necessary. He's even more necessary. They're necessary. And those members of the body which we think are less honorable, upon these we bestow more abundant honor, and our uncomely parts have more abundant comeliness. Why? Because we're not trying to wrestle with who gets the big piece of cake at the party. Why? Because we are found in him, having nothing but what he's bestowed to us, guys. We're not in competition. We're walking as partakers and beneficiaries of the same gift bestowed in the same person. And those members of the body which we think are less honorable, Commons 24, for our comely parts have no need, but God hath tempered the body together, having given them more abundant honor to that part which lacked. That there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care one for another. And whether one member, it's my dog snoring, and whether one member suffer, all the members suffer with it. And one member is honored, all the members rejoice with it. Understand this, guys. To walk in love is to walk in harmony with, in syncopation with the love wherewith God has loved us in his cross. What does that look like? Again, this love as our basis, as our grounding, never provides to us a basis for boasting in the singular member, but glories in the singular source out from whom or of whom all members partake. It is a love that gives us an everlasting and unchanging foundation upon which we are to boast. He is all in all. That defines the body according to Paul. If the love of Christ crucified, the love that was manifested to us in the cross to provide one life to all, one righteousness to all, one covenant to all, one source for all. Again, we rejoice and glory in the sufficiency and the satiating nature of the one. And in that understanding and that appreciation, we deal and live one to another. Here's the question. Do we do these things to bring attention to ourselves so that men can applaud our good works? No. So you'll read in Matthew 5 and 16, and I'll turn here real quick. And again, it's very interesting where this is. This is where he talks about a candle is lit, never put under a bushel, cannot be hid. I mean, they don't light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick they may give light to all the house, all that are in the house. So let your light shine before men that they may see your good works. And we're like, oh, yeah. But look at this. And glorify your Father, which is in heaven. And right after that, he says, think not I'm come to destroy the law. I'm come to fulfill it. So this is not about you trying to do something, fulfill it. This is about living in accordance to a reality fulfilled, so that you're not looking to be praised by man or God. You are looking for men to glorify the God who has bestowed to you all things. And you're just living out as a beneficiary of the all things he's bestowed, because you're living in the understanding of the love in which you live every moment. And you're doing that one to another as his household and those who are outside of the house, calling them to the love wherewith you've been loved, calling them to the mercy that has been shown to you as an earthen vessel who didn't deserve any of it. And we read things like, "Oh, let men see your good works," and we think, "Oh boy, that's performance based." No, it's not. It is not a call to a performance based Christianity. It is rather the call for an authentic, God glorifying life that naturally and automatically does what it does out from a true appreciation and gratefulness for a gift bestowed by God. And it is important to understand the context is also going into chapter 6, where he begins to talk about the hypocrites. Because you can see the same actions done in the love of God, out of the love of God. Love is the source, love's not the source. You could see the same action without comprehension of the source. And you can point to that and say, oh, that's the good Christianity. And it's hypocrisy. What does that mean? That means you got to see the source. You can't just see the actions. You can't boast in the action. The action is not the point. The source is the point. The source is the point. That's why we have to come to see the source and live in an understanding of the source and the sufficiency of our one common source, instead of looking for our activities to prove that we have something and that we're good enough. And dang it, people like. Because many of the things we read a while ago, giving your stuff, giving everything to the poor, giving your body up to be burned as an offering, laying it down maybe as a martyr. And we look at that and say, oh, that's laudable Christian living. It is if the source is Christ. Again, this is not saying that brother's not born again. It's about understanding the source, guys. The source. Because in that we can boast and live without a desire to have anything of our own, because that's the love. We have something that is greater than anything we could claim as our own. We have him. And we live one with another in view of another, so that we don't compete with one another for a position and a place. Because Matthew 6 talks about those, do not do your alms before men. That means giving, where you can be seen of them. Otherwise, you have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore, when you do thine alms, do not sound a trumpet as a hypocrite do in the synagogues, that they may have glory from men. I say unto you, they have their reward. But when you do your alms, let not the left hand know what the right hand does. Thine alms may be in secret, and your Father which sees in secret, he will reward thee in a manifest way. Maybe not to men, but to you, you will understand the reward that's given. And when you prayest, don't be as the hypocrites who go in, who pray standing in the synagogues, the corners of the street, that they may be seen of men. Is that why we do what we do? Verily I say, they have their reward. But you go shut the door. That's almost like when your brother doesn't believe what you believe. What does it say? Keep your faith to you. Keep it before God. Shut your mouth and don't offend the brother. See, if we walk in love, and I'm almost done, I'm gonna read some things. If we walk in love as his body, we will not desire praise of men or the satisfaction of exhibiting our own goodness. We will live daily understanding the whole is filled, the whole of the body, every member is filled with the one that he is. I do not have a righteousness to boast in. I do not have a gift to exercise. I do not have a standing before God to glory in. I have him, and that is all, and that is enough. Now, do you see the impact and the true reason we need to know the depth and breadth and length and height of this love? That is why it is important. Forbearing one another in love, all long suffering and meekness. Because that's only truly accomplished. It's only, if you want to use the term, lived out in love. Because in love, where we walk in love as the basis of our living with one another, our dealings with one another, our conduct amongst one another. That's why I love true brotherly Christian fellowship, because it's authenticity, authentic. It's not pretense. It's not make believe. It is authentic. It is real. It is him. And that doesn't look like what most people think it does. For in the love of God, we boast in one who is greater than all others, who is greater than every member, who is greater than the all who are in him, leaving us all bound by one Lord, one faith, one baptism, having one peace, having one righteousness and one covenant, one relationship with God who is over all. Therefore, we can speak the truth in that love, so that we may, as he says in Ephesians 4, grow up into him who is the head, the one who supplies the body with all that he is. Fellowship of the body, the manner of our dealing with one another is always governed by the love of God made manifest in the cross. Again, not I, but Christ who lives in me. The life that I now live in this flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Our love is always in reference to this love. It is not equal, again, not equal. My love toward you is not equal to that love. Neither can it ever be. How stupid would it be to think that? But it is in accordance to that love that brings full salvation and full redemption and grace, so that we would not judge one another, but love one another in a judgment God has already wrought. Our love toward one another is an automatic and authentic result of recognizing the unity that we share in one head. There would be external actions based upon an internal recognition, like such things as, if we see our brother in lack, we'll give to them. We'll provide them. That's not a labor out of obligation, but out of covenant and sameness of life and source before God. We are members one of another. We are not trying to perform. We are living out from a perfection that God has bestowed. We will not desire to be or do anything. We will not say, if I'm not the hand, I'm not of the body. We'll not jockey for a place or a position. We will not look for our own glory. Love puffeth up. Not at all. It's not arrogant. Doesn't seek itself. It doesn't exalt itself. No. We will merely rejoice that we are all found in him, having nothing of our own. And when that is the love out from which we love one another, not with which, because that's the love in which we stand, we love one another as only as we can. Again, not equal with God's love, but out from it, in accordance to it. And we do all that we do out from that basis, that I have nothing of my own. You have nothing of your own. My righteousness is the same as yours. It's him. And I'm going to declare to you the him, not the me. That's love. As I said, we would read things like giving to the poor, giving your body to be burned. And that could be understand, and probably is out from that, a loving action or demonstration of real love. However, these things can be done and present, and yet love still not be the factor involved in those things. The greatest thing is love. That means Christ in you, Christ made unto you all things, Christ as the true gift and source of all spiritual blessings. And if out from that we walk and live and deal with and communicate with one another, there will be no need for hypocritical actions. We will live unto one another in view of the head. True nature, character of love, does not envy. It does not puff up itself. It is not provoked. Let me read these things and we'll be done. This connects, if eating meat offends my brother, I will not do it, because I do not want to be an offense to him, because love will not allow me to prove my case. It will not allow me to prove my understanding as superior or more significant, because God's love has bestowed to me and all others, even that brother who is weak, a reality in which no man and no flesh can glory or boast. This is walking and living in love and peace toward all. This is walking in wisdom among those who are outside of the house of God and those who are inside. It is walking in love Christ has loved us with, and this love is eternally defined and everlastingly secured in a finished work. Our walking in this love will always cause us to desire, and again, as we grow in understanding of this love, it'll become more perfectly clear to us, and it will become more and more apparent to us, and we'll walk out from a clarity, more clear, unto one another. It will make us desire to truly edify in grace and not win an argument. Are not trying to prove our spiritual standing over another brother. This is the boast that is rooted in love, a love that can say neither eating nor eating, neither nor, but Christ. Neither this nor that, but Him. Love is pure. Love is unaffiliated with the natural thing. Love is untainted by me. So to walk in love is to walk in a reality that is untainted by earthen vessels, but thank God, dwells in the earthen vessel. And that leaves me not having to prove my case or puff myself up. I can stand sufficiency in His allness, or I stand sufficient in His sufficiency and His allness. And I can live towards you in view of that sufficiency that you also have. To either remind you of it, edify you in it, or call you back to it. I hope this has helped. I hope this makes sense. As I said, these are new things in my own mind, in my own heart. And so words are hard to come by. So I hope at least there was some clarity in what was said. Love you guys so much. Thank you for always being there, always listening, and appreciating these podcasts and these videos. Again, if you haven't, please like and subscribe to this video. You can do that, but also like the channel, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell when you subscribe to it so you'll be notified of every class we do, because we also do the live classes here and there, or every other Monday night, and the pop-up live classes here and there. So hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. Hope you're safe and your family is doing well, whatever you do for Christmas. I hope you're safe and have a great time with those you love and celebrate the season together. Until next time.